Hello and welcome to Deliberately Creative. I'm Stephanie and I want to welcome you to another drawing lesson from my sketchbook. This time we are doing the Sakura Cherry Blossom. It's really pretty. It's a lovely little branch of delicately painted flowers. You can paint them, you can color them in with crayons, colored pencils, or whatever makes you happy. Come with me and I'll show you how fast, fun, and easy drawing up some Sakura Cherry Blossoms really is.
I think I want to do a cherry blossom branch. Cherry blossoms have these very pretty, soft pink flowers, and they're very lyrical to me. They flow, and they're just beautiful images of spring. And I love all of the seasons. My two favorite seasons, though, are spring and autumn, because that's when there's the most color in the landscape. The sunlight is at the lower angles, the colors of the plants. So what I'm going to do is get started here by first putting a crookedy, gnarly looking cherry branch. That's one half of it. Now, I grew up with a big old cherry tree in the backyard. And cherry trees, though they do follow most of the rules, they don't have smooth, easygoing branches. Their branches tend to be much more freeform, and they get a little knobby, and they have these lumps and bumps. They might have a few straight spots, but they tend to get lumpy and bumpy and very textured. Like I said, they don't follow all the rules. They might follow some, but they don't follow them all. I just want to get a little bit of color in here just for the shadow. I'm not going to worry too much about making perfect shadows. Just a little bit of texture, because I am going to use the Inktense again to give it just a little bit more color. You could do that with watercolor. You could do it with colored pencil. It's kind of like making your own coloring sheets. When you can draw pictures and not put too much detail in. And see how I just thickened that line back up? That's fine, because I can put a little bit of a shadow on that. The branch is sort of twisting and going away from me, so things can look a little wonky, and that's okay. Sometimes it'll look like the branch is getting thicker when it isn't. It's just the knob of an edge. And these are not the actual spots where the flowers are. The actual branches or stems that the flowers are on come out of this. The only one that might show up is at the very end of a stem like this. There might be a bud, which is basically just like that. The buds are almost like a tiny little rose. And if you look at the flowers and then look at the fruit of a cherry tree, they actually look very much like roses and rose hips. It's kind of cool. I'm not going to shadow or shade up inside of there very much. I might give just a couple little lines just to sort of say, indeed, there's something going on there. So we have a bud at the end of that. Now I'm going to go ahead and take a stem out, just like that. And the flowers, the petals, are all coming from a center, but they don't tend to, how do I want to say? They don't come together, and they don't have a tight little button that they're attached to. They are sort of floating around, it looks like, but they're not. They're actually down here at this base is where they're attached, and when they open out, they make a little cup or a well. So we've got these little flowers like this. Not anything too big. There's a little bit of some shadow down inside. And then they have these lovely stamens that sort of pop out. Just like that. Just a little bit. You don't have to have a lot. And then to create that shadow down inside and coming up over, so it looks like the petals are coming out, just make some little curved lines coming from down low. Now this one, I gave it a little fold in the petal right here. That will be a little bit darker color when I color it. And now I do want to put just some little lines out towards the ends just a bit. And that just is giving us some of those little shiny bits that you would see. And I'll thicken that line up just a little bit. There it is. Now I want another one, and I think I'm going to have it right here. That's like the edge of where some petals are meeting up and then going down into that center. And I think this one's actually going to have sort of a fold in it. Then this one is going to be just very little. And the reason why this one looks little is because it is foreshortened. It's coming towards us, so we don't see it as well. And I think that I'm going to end up, I don't like how wide that one ended up being, so I just created another line, and then let's just put another petal right here. And look, it just happens to have a fold in it, just like this one had a fold. The neat thing here, these 5-petaled flower, there we go. They're just little 5-petaled flowers, but they have so much character to them. And they're so delicate, but they're very hardy, unless you end up with one of those winter winds that blows through after they've started blooming. And there's going to be a couple little leaf thingies on the branch here, just because. And let's see, I think I want to have another little one coming this way. I'm making this up as I go along, so if they're not attached properly to the branch, that's because I'm not actually looking at a real picture. I'm doing this out of my head. And I think I want another bud right here. So a bud is basically just sort of a rough teardrop shape. And it'll have these little leaves. And it comes in and has a bit of a base to it. There we go. See, that's all that takes. And then I want, let's see, this one's going to have a little bit bigger flower on it, but it's not going to be all the way opened up yet. So you see how I just gave it some little petals, little leaves that have fallen back. And then we're going to go up. And we're going to have one that's coming out. like that. And then we'll have another that's sort of attached still up there. And one that's coming around like this. And one that's just getting ready to pop open. And now on these, I want to give it some shadow down here at the base. So you see how I just worked that random little line that was sitting there that I didn't know what to do with? I just worked it in. You can hide a lot of things with pen and ink. It's not as scary or as unforgiving as people think. I'm going to put some stamens in, and I'm going to pop my stamens up. They're going to be bigger and really coming out. There we go. Just like that. I keep saying just like that, but it is so fun. Now there's going to be another one right here, I think. And I'm giving it the center this time. And then I'm going to come like this. This one, the petals might even come underneath of that branch a bit. It's going to be a little bit away from us. So I think that the petals are not going there we go. The petals are a little bit odd shaped. And I think that the stem is actually coming around like this. And then it has those little stamens. There we go. Just a few little lines here and there. Give it a few more flowers, and then I think I want to get some color. So let's see, kind of at this spot right here. One of those petals was there we go. You see, it's really a very basic flower. And if you gave a kid a pencil and said, draw me a flower, this would actually be very similar to the flower they would draw you. But when you go in and you give it a little bit of a shadow in the middle, you give it a little bit of some shine lines here and there. Look how much more depth and detail the flower has. Maybe a couple little lines out there at the tip. And then give it those stamens. You know, the stamens really work magic here. Just like that. And again, it's just like that. And let's see. The thing about cherries is that the flowers come out before the leaves do. So we don't have leaves that we're going to be contending with here. We are just giving it a little bit of life with some pen work. Oh wow, I need to move along here. All right, one more flower, and then we're going to put a little bit of color on here. There we go. A little bit of color will go in, and it will go on so fast. You're going to be amazed at how quickly you can make these look like beautiful little cherry blossoms. All right, so that's all we're going to do with that. Maybe a few little shine lines. that's all we're going to do for that. Now, get that out of my way. I have a set of Inktense blocks here, and I am going to use that for coloring my stem, my little branch, and for coloring in those flowers. So the branch first. Cherry blossom or cherry branches are actually fairly dark, but I want to get just a touch of color on here. Inktense blocks are, or Inktense color, are actually ink that is water soluble when it's in its stick form or pencil form. But once it's been gotten wet and left to dry, it becomes permanent. And I'm not too worried about making this absolutely perfect. And if I go outside my lines, that's okay. Just relax about it, you know? I want a little bit of a darker brown tone. Cherry blossom or cherry branches are very dark. And by doing it sort of loosely along, it gives almost that oriental feel of a sakura. Sakura being the Japanese word for a cherry. They have great festivals of the sakura in the springtime. Let's see here. Now I am grabbing just a bit of a sort of a pink color. And that's really dark and pigmented right there. So I want to use that on my buds. And then sort of down deep in the middles. Coming out. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is add more water to my little puddle of pigment here. And I'm not going to put it everywhere. I'm just going to sort of dot it on to my flowers. Because one of the things is that the blush of the pink on these flowers goes almost to white in certain lighting. So darker at the base and then lighter out, but it's not going to be completely. Look at that. Aren't those pretty? So where I want the darker color, basically where I did those shine lines, they were actually the shadow lines. They just make it look like there's a highlight by putting in the shadows. You leave the areas around the shadows without as much color. And then you end up with just lovely, soft little flowers. And I think I'm going to grab just a slightly purpley color. It's just a little bit darker. I just want to get a little bit of that in there. Let's see here. Get a little bit more. There we go. Many times the cherry stems have that bit of a red tone to them. So we'll go ahead and put a little bit of that in. You notice I am basically just coloring using a brush. Whoops. Well, I just splatted a bit of color on there. So I'm going to let that dry, and I will just draw another flower, or draw, maybe I'll actually, let's see, what can I do? I'll just put some more petals right here. And then I'll put the pen in after. How's that? See? We'll just do it like that. You can do things. That one's just turned around away from us and it doesn't have any light on it. Now what I'm going to do is I am just putting more water onto these petals, and then I'm going to lift some of that color out while it's still wet. Lift some of that water out while it's still wet. Let's see, I need paper towel. There we go. Because you see, it's not actually drying or lifting out much color. There we go. I'm just going to blot these off now. Whatever's left, I'll just blot that off. Blot, blot, blot. All right, so, yeah, that's dry enough. So we're going to give it a bit of a center. We're going to go up and out. We're going out. This one actually looks like the petal is bent in. And there we go. And then some stamens. And it's lost a petal. How's that? We can make it work. We can make it do whatever we want it to do. Now I'm going to grab just a little tiny bit of an orangey yellow color and just put a few little dots here and there. Not even worried about making it line up with the stamens too much. We're just putting some pollen out here for those stamens. And we are done with these lovely cherry blossoms. If you like this video, please click that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video with your friends, make sure to share it on your social media, and go out, do something creative, take care of yourself so you can take care of those around you. And I hope to see you back here again really soon. Bye-bye.